Welcome back to Control, Alt, Delete, Repeat, the podcast where we debug your workflows and your worldviews. I'm Paul Malott, automation strategist, system thinker, and the guy who believes kindness deserves a checkbox in your CRM. Today, we're asking a bold question. Can we build efficient, high-performing businesses without losing the humanity at the core? Joining me is Dr. Bruno Signaco, TEDx speaker, international consultant, and author of The Art of Compassionate Business, now in its second edition. His book invites us to challenge deep-rooted business assumptions that employees are expendable, competitors are threats, and customers are scarce, and instead embrace a new world model, one grounded in trust, passion, learning, and relationships. Let's explore what it means to build truly human-oriented enterprises in an increasingly automated world. Bruno, welcome to the show. Let's jump right in.
Thank you for your invite. I feel very honored to be here. Thank you.
Pleasure's all mine. Pleasure's all mine, man. Let's jump right in here. So your book is asking a really critical question, I think, especially right now. The question is there a way to perform business more humanely? So I ask you, can you please share a moment in your own career that made you realize something was deeply missing from how we typically do business?
Yes, I have a very interesting experience as a consultant. I have been delivering consultancy services for nearly 30 years. And one of the companies that I advised, they were having a very bad customer service. How this was so bad? Because they were using scripts. The employees working for the customer service department were reading scripts and they were acting in a mechanical way. In some cases, they were using automation, but in the wrong way. They were
Sure.
not personalizing the messages that were sending to the customer by enhancing, for example, some technology like artificial intelligence, but they were sending standardized messages to all customers. Customer feel treated in a very impersonal way. Customer feel that they were dealing with people that were robots instead of human beings. And what we saw in this company, that customer reviews were very terrible, were very low quality reviews, and the company sales were going down. And what we observed, that these employees were not engaged, they were not motivated, they were not connecting to customer in a meaningful way, but also they were focusing on their own objectives, on getting more sales, more profit, more commission, instead of focusing on customer needs. And I explained to this company that doesn't make any sense, because at the end, if you focus only on your own objectives without serving customer in a very meaningful way, these customers are the ones generating profit for your company. And if you treat them in a mechanical way, in an impersonal way, this customer not only will feel that they are treating in a dehumanizing way, but also will choose the competitor's company and the competitor's product, and they will look for other products that are not only adding value to their life, but where customers are treated in a respectful way, in a supportive way.
So do you think it's almost insulting in a way to
It's
be
insulting.
extremely automated and generic? I mean, I'll
No.
talk from my experience that the live in a world of systems, right? And I'm constantly having to balance the idea of a digital mimicry, right? Of an organization's processes. It's CRMs, it's bots, it's workflows, it's outreach. And the struggle is honestly scale versus that personalization. And automation allows you to get the scale, reach scale. But again, you mentioned doing it in a smart and personalized way. And I
Yes.
almost feel like the same amount of effort goes into both approaches.
Yes. Why so important? Because in practice, in business, the most important factor is relationship, the human being. If you focus too much on the system, in some cases, you can use the system to the extreme without creating a balance between high tech and high touch. High
Uh-huh.
tech implies the use of technology, which is enhancing time management, getting more efficiency, getting more competitiveness, but also high touch is so important, because if you're offering the same product as competitors, what will make the difference is the personalization of the
Uh-huh.
relationship, how you connect to them and how you look for their specific needs. Because these customers, how they feel treated as they were a figure in the database as a
Sure.
means to an end to get profit for this company, instead of being treated as human beings, flesh and bone human beings with a specific need, with a specific fear, with a specific expectation. I don't disagree with the use of system, but should be balanced with the human being. Because
Sure.
if the customer doesn't have access to any human being, and all the communication is by email, bots, and also website, without talking to a human voice whenever possible, or having a video conference with a the personal or the staff member, well,
Mhm.
this will be considered as too impersonal. You are focusing on efficiency, what we call the economic aspect of business, but you're dismissing the relational aspect of business.
Mhm.
This means building a strong, long-lasting relationship with this customer and employees and other stakeholders. And at the end, you cannot succeed without stakeholders. With these stakeholders, wouldn't it be nice to put them on your side? How you put these customer, employees, community members, suppliers on your side. You cannot force them to
Sure.
be on your side, but when you build a strong relationship where the needs of both parties, the company and customers, or the company and employees are fully met, these stakeholders are more prone to cooperate spontaneously. And these customers that you treat in a personalizing way are more prone to recommend your product to other customers. You will see a lot of positive reviews online.
So if I could interrupt, I mean, obviously you wrote a book about compassion, and I'd have to venture that you believe that compassion and something like automation and scale can exist together,
Yes,
right?
of course, yes.
And absolutely in a business. And what you're telling me is that compassion should be, what I'm hearing is compassion should be ahead of a KPI, almost ahead of efficiency. And so how do we? I mean, am I kidding myself that I can have both?
You can have both. Compassion lead to KPI. I want to highlight
Okay.
this because these KPI don't come out of the blue. They come from people connected to your company, and people are
Mm-hmm.
connected to your company in different way. Could be connected to your company in a non-cooperative way, in a dismissive way because you are the last alternative that they can choose, or they can be connected to your company in a committed way, a loyalty-based relationship with your company, content relationship, and this customer might come not only once. When you have built a long-term relationship with this customer once and again will come to your company. What I'm saying is that you cannot get the KPI without people. This means that you
Sure.
need customer, you need employees, you need community members. Most companies, what I observe, especially big companies, tend to focus too much on the KPI, and in some cases they try to obtain the KPI by all means. For example,
Yeah.
deceiving customers, for example, exploiting employees, for
Yeah.
example, polluting the environment. And this is an extreme view on KPI because in those cases, the company might achieve temporarily this KPI, but the company reputation will suffer, the company brand image will go down. Why? Because companies not taking into account the needs of these stakeholders. And if you don't take into account the needs of these stakeholders, other companies will do. So this means that you are not the only one in the marketplace. So it's important to nurture this relationship. And there should be, as you mentioned, I believe in the power of system combination, a synergetic combination between systems that support the
Mm-hmm.
employees to be more efficient, to manage their time more effectively, but also the human contact. The human contact
Yeah.
that can help soothe fears from customers, the resolve doubt that cannot be resolved with a bot or with a specific standardized email. And so it's important to bring about an equilibrium between the use of technology and the human side of business.
It sounds like the first thing that comes to my mind in terms of roadblocks with this approach is time, right?
Time.
When you discuss building a relationship and touch points, and that's a lot of time.
Yes.
And right now, that's counterintuitive. I think what I'm hearing is you're saying invest the time in developing the
Yes.
relationship and
Yes.
the system that supports the relationship.
Yes.
And today, everything online is be more productive, save
Yes.
time, increase
Yes.
efficiency. How are we cutting through that noise?
Very,
What's the
very
way
interesting.
for me, like my company? What's a way to get the best of both worlds?
Yes.
Right?
Very
Compress
interesting.
time to sale, but show them the value right off the bat and get them, the handshake and understand we're brothers in this. We're brother and sister in this.
Very important, very important. Time management is a very important point in business, a very important topic. And what I observe that companies in many cases are obsessed with time management and they create an environment of busyness. So this means that,
Yeah.
for example, you contact customer and you have to take only 5 minutes per call because you have to contact many other customers. Customer
Yep.
can perceive this pressure, this time management sexiness, and in practice, you are saving time, supposing that you want to contact 10 customers using an effective system per hour. But will you have a meaningful conversation with this customer? Will you deepen this relationship with this customer? Maybe not. Maybe you contact this customer, you tick the objectives in your checklist, but you didn't build any relationship. Instead, if you take a bit more of time to build this relationship, you will save time in the future. Why? Because you don't have to look for new customer. You will have customer retention. Customers that come once and again to your company, and this is an investment for the future. Most of the company go for instant gratification. Let's check the list. Let's check all the list. Let's tick down all the points and try to go through the list. This is dehumanizing because customers feel when the companies are pressurizing them. I see some restaurants here in the UK, for example, that do not allow customers to stay more than 1 hour. Why? Because they want to clear the table for the other customer to come.
Another turn. Yeah, they got to get more turns.
Will you go back to the restaurant? No, at all. You will leave negative reviews, and this will push away other customers. So again, with the call center have an efficiency track that they have to check 10 minutes per customer, 10 minutes, no more. Instead of their companies, what they are doing is, doesn't matter how much time we have to take because we are building a relationship. And this will bring about benefit, long-lasting benefit, not only once and again, because customer might come back once and again, and this customer might recommend these other customers, and this will create what we call an overarching promotion all over the internet that this saves you time. Yeah, a cycle, positive cycle. So this means that investing in relationship is a good investment because relationship is like a plant. You cannot water this plant only once. You have to build this relationship, strengthen the relationship, and this will bring about unlimited benefits. Unlimited benefit.
So you mentioned busy work, and I think as a founder of a smaller organization, right, we've got 5 people on Automations 24. And wearing multiple hats, right? The smaller the organization, the more I have to be an accountant one day, a CEO the next day, a podcast host one moment. Sometimes I feel like a lot of it's busy work. And then, and I think about KPIs and reaching the ultimate goal. And I think what you're telling me here is it's a cultural KPI that's moving it forward, that's moving all of the different KPIs in the right direction. If I could, try to ground it in that. Now, with that in mind, right? Busy work and doing something for the sake of doing it. What's one belief or mindset in a business practice that you delete for good, right? This is Control+Alt+Delete. So we got to talk about a process that businesses do that we just need to get out of there. Well, what would you pick?
Very, very important. The most important business practice that is detrimental to any KPI is self-centeredness. When you focus only on yourself, you focus only on your profit, on your market share, on your sales, on your cost, and you do not focus on what you should be focusing on, that is stakeholders. Because when you are other-centered, when you are other-focused, this means that you focus on the well-being of customers, the well-being of employees, the well-being of suppliers, and the community. These stakeholders tend to reciprocate. There is the law of reciprocity. When you treat them well, when you treat them in a respectful way, when you support them, they will support you in return. When you support the employee, they will work the extra mile. When you don't exploit them, but you care for them, for their well-being, physical, mental, emotional well-being, and you allow them to have free time also to think, to relax, not to get into burnout, this employee will go the extra mile, will be more efficient, will be more creative, more productive. There is a lot of research on this. The same happens with customers. When you care for them.
Effect, right? That's the ripple effect.
Positive effect.
That compassion brings is it's the fact that it's not just a feeling, but if it's in the business, you get that ripple effect where the company's actually leading with care, right? I mean, and it's evident in what they do. Have you seen companies? It's easier to go downhill than it is to go uphill, right? I mean, the way I always equate winning is like you're rolling a snowball uphill and it gets bigger as you go further up. Have you seen a company completely transform? Not just on the PR angle, but have you witnessed and supported that transformation?
I give you an example of the health sector here in the UK. There are many studies, but we observe companies that doctors are always busy. So medical doctors are always busy, and imagine they have to take into account many patients. They have a list of patients to go through. And what we observe here, and this is also corroborated with research, that when doctors have a 1-minute conversation with the patient, especially with patients that need to be operated, that need to go through surgery, 1-minute conversation to know the patient fear, the patient worries and concerns. This patient, when it goes through operation, has less anesthesia to be applied and shorter recovery time with one mini conversation. This
Yeah.
means that this lower the cost of the hospital and the health care center. Why? Because one mini conversation that was devoted, many would
Yeah, they
think that this.
released earlier. Yeah, 100%.
So this is
Interesting.
amazing, amazing. And what happened? Because at the end, we are focusing too much on the hard aspect of business. So the
Yeah.
profit, the market share, the KPI. But the soft aspects are so important or more important than the hard aspect, what I call relational aspect. Because at the
Mhm.
end, you generate profit, you generate market share, you generate more sales with the help of people. You cannot do this. System might help too, but you need people. There is nothing that is completely automatic. You need people to support you, and you need people to work for your company, and you need people to buy from your company, and you need suppliers. These are all people. When you dismiss these people, you are shooting on your foot because
Yeah.
these people are unlikely to cooperate. If you treat them in a dehumanizing way, why they will cooperate? They will say, what is in for me? You have to think about them first and develop win-win agreements. All the decisions in business should be made only when all people involved, all people affected by this decision are winning. Nobody's winning at the expense of others.
So how do you feel about studies are out there about the longevity of business, the life of a business, of a brand, and the size of businesses, right? The time frame of a company is getting smaller from something like 60 years it'll last to 18 on average now, and the scope of business is being handled because of the technology by a smaller workforce, right?
Yes,
Do you feel like this is going to obviously it's going to put a different kind of stress on the human capital, right?
yes,
The amount of sheer management per person, right? Cost per
yes,
person. I mean, one company, icon.me, they're like 8 people and they're over 10 million revenue per month, right? One, I have to assume they've got a beautiful structure that supports their business operating. But two, I have to assume that every single person in that company feels the pressure, right? What do we do there? What do we do? How do we prepare for the future when I am a robot, essentially. I hate to say robot, but I'm doing it all, right? And I have
yes.
a system that supports that. But how am I maintaining that compassion and
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
that?
Well, you are maintaining this compassion and you're extending the longevity of this business with a very simple principle. Instead of selling product and services to the marketplace, you are serving customer,
Uh-huh.
serving customer. This means that this will differentiate you from 90% of the companies. What is the difference between selling and serving? Well, selling is self-focused, self-centered. This means I'm thinking about my sales, levels.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking about my profit, my cost. Serving is adding value, regular value to customer and increasing the value that you add to this customer over time. This means that you need to innovate. You need to
Yeah.
look for new system to deliver the value. You need to look for new way of distributing the product, new design for your product, new packaging. So this means that you cannot get complacent. This means that you try to go beyond what is the standard of this industry. And I always tell my clients, always over deliver and under promise. This means
Uh-huh.
that you have the promises very low. So this means that then you surprise customer in a positive way. Most
Sure.
companies do the opposite. They exaggerate their claims, they exaggerate their offerings, and then they deliver below the standard. They don't even
And
meet the
that's
basic.
really that's KPIs I'm talking about too. That's
Yeah.
because they have a mission to get a sale, 10 sales in 1 month. Or I
Yes.
mean, no, perfect. And I've realized that personally as I've transitioned from a corporate procurement director to entrepreneur, that my attitude has to be completely ingrained in whom I'm working with and how I'm helping them. And the value add isn't delivering what I do best. It's in delivering something different to them that enhances what they need, right? Honestly, it's been a mind frame 360 for me
Yes.
because I've been mostly about, and I hate to say it like this, but like in the corporate environment, it's you go to your leadership team, especially in procurement, they expect savings. So you almost feel like every month you're bringing a sack of gold to the table to your king and you're saying, here's what I did for savings and here's how I'm trying to get more. And I'll be honest, the relationship approach on the supplier side, I always took pride in. I had great salesmen who respected me, they respected my challenges, and we worked together to resolve big automotive issues, right? And that working together was where I got the value add, right? We literally were in each other's systems and basically part of one team. But it was leadership that was always kind of the, I hate to say it like that, but they were very concerned with the savings from it, not what we're doing today that's developing the relationship, even though they're measuring it as a cultural score, which is a whole funny thing to me too, where companies put their information on the table and talk about a grade between A and B on how they're going to rate each other. And you know, it's fun. It's a good thing to have that conversation, but it's also, I think, distracting to the fact that all businesses are trying to stay in business, right? We all have shareholders we have to satisfy. They expect a certain amount of KPIs to be achieved, but also sustainability. Sustainability from you're going to be around for a while, company, right? So balancing that has always been a challenge for me, especially now coming into the side of I'm not buying the product, I'm now serving and selling the product, right? I really appreciate that insight. Now, this has been super inspiring. I have to get to the final question, and it's a little philosophical rather than to the point about business KPIs and strategy, and it has to do with squirrels, like our
Okay.
usual endings. And so, if squirrels were running their own economy, right, would they compete over every acorn, or would they try to build systems of trust? And what is that? What does a squirrel's version of a compassionate business look like?
Very interesting. I like a squirrel because here in London we have a lot of squirrel around, and I have some of them in my backyard. So the
Yeah,
idea is we can say that the animals in practice they tend to be cooperative, and in many cases, obviously the same species, they tend to be cooperative. And how a squirrel that is compassionate will look like? Well, in many cases, they complement their function. There might be some squirrel getting some acorns for the group, and then the other one storing these acorns, but also bringing about a system of supportiveness. This means a
uh-huh,
system where the member of this group can support each other. It's difficult to imagine with a squirrel, but it's very likely that for their survival, they need to support and also defending themselves from threats, big animals that could be predators.
sure.
And also, I feel that if the squirrel can think about this aspect of compassion, they will try to care for each other. They will look for the well-being of the group, because the well-being of the group, as it happened in business, is the well-being of the individuals. This is very similar to what happened in business. Business is about interdependence. When you care for different stakeholders that are connected to your company, you are caring for yourself. The same happened with the
Mhm.
squirrel. When they care for the group well-being, they care for having enough for the hard times, for example, winter times, well, the whole group will prosper. But if someone asks,
I love what you said about ecosystem, right? And it is hard to relate to squirrels, but it's easier, maybe easier for me than other people because I feel like squirrels are a little attention deficit, right? And they're running around and they do a lot of busy work, right? But I love the approach of the ecosystem. The smart economy of a squirrel understands that you're building, if each squirrel is an entrepreneur, they're basically building their ecosystem of support, right? And I
yes,
can relate to that as a founder, a entrepreneur, a corporate guy turned entrepreneur. My ecosystem is what sustains me today. That's the
totally.
network, that's my clients, that's my suppliers, that's my employees, that's the people who I've just talked to on at a glance that I know they could fit in the puzzle piece in the future. So I really love that approach, Bruno. Any final words for our listeners, and where can they find you and where can they buy your book?
Very interesting. Final words, I want to leave some self-reflection question for the listeners. For example, a very important question is, how can I be more aware in the middle of business of other stakeholder needs? Very important. Take 1 minute or two every day. How can I be more aware and more knowledgeable about other stakeholder needs so that I can connect to them in a much more meaningful way? And
Hmm.
another important question is, how can I be more generous and supportive with this stakeholder so that I can bring about a positive cycle of reciprocity? I'm being generous and being supportive, and they're more prone to be generous and supportive with me in return.
Hallelujah.
They can find me on LinkedIn, and my website is www.brunosignaco.com. And the book, The Art of Compassionate Business, second edition, published by Ruthless, can be found worldwide, bookshops online and offline. Thank you very much for your invite. I feel very honored to be here.
Yeah, Bruno, it's been a absolute pleasure and honestly quite inspiring. And I'm going to go and act with some compassion now myself, and put my brain forward in how I do my automations, even, right? Involving humans in the loop and making sure that I'm a little more aware of how personalized I can make it, right? And go that extra mile. That's it for the episode of Control, Alt, Delete, and Repeat, where we believe the best business strategy is part logic, part love, and all human. Until next time, automate with care, lead with purpose, and if your team hasn't seen lately, start there. Catch you on the next one. Thanks again, Bruno.
Thank you.